Andy Chrisman of For Him has spent 40-plus years in Christian music, and chances are he knows your favorite artist personally. Now he's bringing you their stories.
I'm Andy Chrisman.
In his new podcast, 1 Degree of Andy, he sits down with the voices behind the songs for real, honest, and faith-filled conversations you won't hear anywhere else.
That's a great question.
If you love Christian music, this is your backstage pass.
The 1 Degree of Andy podcast.
Listen now to 1 Degree of Andy wherever you get your podcasts.
One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelt. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970. The Answer.
Nice beat, Alex. What's the name of that one, my friend?
All right, this is called Cloned by Contra.
Ah, Cloned. Now imagine, Mert, you're sitting at home. You're minding your business when the phone suddenly rings. Wow, that's a musical phone. You pick it up and you hear a friend or family member's voice. She's crying. She's terrified. She says she's been kidnapped. She begs for your help. Then you find out it wasn't her, it was a machine. This isn't science fiction, my friends. This isn't someday. This is right now. Now, in March of 2023, a mother in Arizona received a call just like that. She told CNN, quote, "It was my daughter's voice. It was her crying. It was her sobbing. Except her daughter was safe." Now here's the catch. The voice was AI generated, cloned from a few seconds of audio scraped from social media. That's the world we're now living in, my friends. A world where even your voice, the thing that carries your identity, your personality, your very soul, can be stolen, replicated, and weaponized in a matter of minutes. I, for one, have a problem with this technology. Don't you, Mert?
Well, listen. Thievery and imitation has been around for a long time.
Oh, so that makes it okay.
It's been around for a long time.
So that makes it okay.
It's been around for a long time. And now it's finally starting to hit a certain demographic in this country. But it's been around for a long time. You know, you got people like Elvis Presley who, you know, that's like the original form of AI. You know, this American, I'm going to just keep it that way. This American is performing these songs like very famous African American acts. You know, this very, very almost identical imitation of Muddy Waters. I didn't mean to say any names. Sorry about that. But listen, America has always imitated. That's why America is great. So this AI thing, it's scaring a lot of people. But a lot of people need to relax because we take the best from everywhere and we implement it, and America has become great as a result. Now it is starting to attack Americans. Now you have, you know, examples of a grandma, like you just read, being targeted. But you also have people who are able to imitate great works to their benefit. You know, if I go into one of these AI applications right now and I ask it, what would President Bush say about this situation? You know what it'll spit out? Something that President Bush might really say, because this AI technology can take all this information, and guess who provided all the information in the first place? Instagram, Facebook, MySpace.
Yeah, but I get it, but how is it okay? Let's go with your example. So you come up with this phony Bush quote. He never said it. He didn't endorse it. And all of a sudden, there's a quote by Bush that's circulating social media, and you think it's okay that this phony quote is making the rounds. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's not what you're hearing, but I'm glad you thought I was saying that. What I'm saying is, if I wanted to say something in the words of President Bush, I could type it into one of these AI things, and they could spit out a sentence, and they could say, if you want to speak like such and such, this is how you do it. This is what we're living in now, and we.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it right, Bert. I understand the technology.
You know why it's
I'm
right?
struggling to understand what you're saying. I get the
Right.
technology. I get the technology. My
Let me
question
tell
to
why
you:
it's right.
Why is it
It's
okay?
right. It's okay because we're putting all the information, we're providing the fuel for all these artificial systems to mimic us and steal our identities.
That doesn't make it.
Every time you post something on social media with your voice and your likeness, you're giving it to technology, and technology can do whatever it wants with your image.
No, that's not accurate. It's not accurate. Now, look, I think a lot of these companies, these chat GBTs, and have been sued by book authors and movie actresses and movie studios because you're not allowed to borrow, quote unquote, copywritten material. These things are protected by law, Mert, right? Somebody's voice is protected by law. Now, they could do a better job, but in New York, for example, there are privacy rights where you're not allowed to use my voice or your voice for commercial purposes without your consent. In other words, if somebody stole your voice and started selling Coca-Cola products, right? And say, good old Mert, I love Coca-Cola products, but you never said it, you never endorsed it, and you never gave your approval for that. That is illegal. How is that okay, Mert? And you seem to be saying, oh, this is evolution and this is the way of the world. Doesn't make it right, Mert.
Listen, I get, because I realize I'm talking to one of the best lawyers in America right now.
Oh my goodness!
You think the law actually means something? No, what a lot of people.
I would like to think that that's the whole purpose of law, right?
Yeah. But when it comes to things like stealing content and using people's likenesses, you know what's going to happen?
That's thievery.
But it's not like armed robbery. It's a little bit.
Yeah, it's a different form of robbery, Bill Murray. It's not armed robbery, but it's a different form of robbery. They get sued.
People are going to do just like they did with music when you used to get in trouble for stealing songs, but they figured out a way where your likeness could be used, and they put it on YouTube, and they give you 5 cents every time your image or your likeness is used, and it's going to happen anyway.
Well, that's different. Then for them to do that, you had to sign up for it and consent for it. Consent to it. And
if you don't sign up for it, they're just going to steal it and use it anyway. So if you put anything you put out there into the atmosphere in a technological sense, it will be used eventually, because guess who's putting all this stuff out there? We are. And technology doesn't lose, it doesn't forget. So it might not be used today, but in 100 years, some kid out there is going to find something you said, and it'll become theirs. And it'll be a remix. You know what? My family members will sue their you-know-what off. By the way, let's look at some stats, because this is not just innocent stuff, Mert. The numbers are staggering. Let's start here. I know you love stats and surveys. 1 in 10 adults, 1 in 10, Mert, has already been targeted by AI voice cloning scam, not heard about it, not knows about someone, targeted. 1 in 10, Mert. That's 10% of the planet getting a phone call from a voice that sounds exactly like a child, a parent, a spouse, a friend, except it isn't. And the criminals, they're not dabbling, Mert. They're escalating. They're scaling. Okay? It's increased in a single year, according to public available information. This fraud, this particular fraud, deep fake enabled voice fraud, 1,300%, 1,300%, Mert. That's not growth, that's a destination. And it's even uglier here in the U.S. I'm almost done. It's called vishing, V-I-S-H-I-N-G, vishing.
as it's called. That's voice phishing powered by AI. Phishing. That has surged 1,633% in just 1/4 of a year, Mert. So this is escalating. This is spiking in a way that's frightening. And the money, just in case you're worrying, and then I'll let you comment. Businesses are reporting average losses, Mert, of $680,000 per attack when a cloned executive authorizes a wire transfer or green lights a release of sensitive data. Over $500,000 gone per incident because someone trusted sounds that weren't a real voice. And globally, then I'll let you comment, we're talking something like $40 billion in losses projected by 2027. That's not okay, Mert. $40 billion by 2027. So this is something that needs a fix, if you ask me.
Look, there is no fix that's needed to be created. It already exists. What the fix is, do things in person. If like you say, there needs to be a fix. No, stop making the phone call and telling your assistant to do this and do that. Get back in person making these decisions. How they used to do it before technology existed. Like,
well,
we
sometimes
make everything,
that's a little difficult. That's a little difficult, Mert. If you've got an executive,
difficult.
Yeah, but you know what? In the old days, everybody was in the same office. Everybody was in this. But that's not the way it's configured anymore. You've got multinationals. You have multinational companies. You got the boss in Dubai. You got a boss in Dubai.
If you're going to have technology and you're going to take advantage of it, you're going to have to deal with this, and you're going to have to invest money into ensuring this stuff doesn't happen. But I don't want people to try to alarm me, make me nervous, because I already know what the solution is. Get back in person, have face-to-face interactions, and technology can't mimic that at this time. Now, maybe it will be in the future.
Well,
you can have a clone robot walking around.
I don't know if it's that simple.
Look, if you go into any office in your company, you tell them, hey, this is authorized. No, there's no possibility of a scam. But if you're going to do it all the way from Antarctica, okay, something might go wrong. Now, the chances of that are slim to none. But it's still a possibility, because guess what you allowed to be in between you and business? You allowed a machine. And anytime you allow machines or any other entity to be in between you and your business, then you have to provide the proper security, and that costs money.
There needs to be safeguards. That's for sure. Yeah,
so just it's not a problem then. You already understand that. That's all you got to do. Pay the fee. Bring in these security firms who can ensure this stuff stop being cheap, or get back to in person. There's no other thing that needs to be said about this, really.
Yeah, well, one more comment here, okay? Celebrities are also objecting to the thievery, right? You have Scarlett Johansson. She's a famous actress, and she discovered that her voice was being used somewhere, and she said, I was shocked, angered, and disbelief that OpenAI would use a voice that sounded so eerily similar to mine. And SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Union, has been very blunt. A performer's voice is a fundamental part of their identity. It cannot be replicated without consent. So even actors now are objecting to. So it manifests this cloning, Mert. It's not just about businesses. It's not just about moms or grandmoms who hear from family members that were allegedly kidnapped, but even actors and actresses whose voices are being stolen and used for purposes that they have not authorized. This is a major, major problem. Alex, you've been silent. Mert seems to be okay with it, but I think I would like to know from Mert.
I would like to know from Mert, if someone used your voice and made like the most, horrible thing out there, and it said that you said it, wouldn't you want to sue for defamation? I feel like you're saying because it's fair use or whatever, there's no rights for sue, but there is a right for a lawsuit if it gets defaming.
That's exactly what I would do. What I'm saying is, We've created this monster, and now we have to live with it.
Well, first of all, I didn't create it. You didn't create it. In many respects, we're victims of the technology here.
No,
right?
you created it. You created it too. You created it too.
How did I create it?
So don't try to exclude yourself from this. You created it too. You own all these social media platforms. You put your voice out there. Your likeness is out there. You have writings out there. I could put your book, any one of your books, through technology right now, and I could say, can you write me something like Lucas Ferrara? And it'd be able to do it, because that's how skillful this technology is. So everybody's contributing to these things. When you put anything out to them. Go ahead, Alex.
If you argue for fair use, I feel like that takes away from any possibility of lawsuits, and that's not the right mode
It's
either.
not fair use. It's not fair use. Fair use is a completely different legal concept. Usually fair use, Alex, that comes into play, and this is a generalization, so don't get angry with me, listeners, is you take something, a piece of art, but you shift it and you change it. Music, you shift it and you change it. Then you can argue that that's fair use because you've turned it into something different. We're not talking about that here. We're talking about taking my voice, Mert's voice, and using it to exploit for commercial purposes or to do something untoward or obscene. That is not right, and that should not be permitted. And there need to be safeguards. And you know what, Mert, the easiest safeguard is? AI shouldn't be doing it. They shouldn't be using somebody's voice without their permission. They should be saying, do we have your permission to do this? And if I say no, it's no.
Once you create the technology, you can no longer tell people how to use it. Now, you can sue them once you catch them using it a certain way, but you got to understand, these Hollywood directors and these business people in Hollywood, they are already doing this to cut costs. So when you want to be cheap and you don't want to bring the people in-house to do the work, and you want to be cheap, you're opening Pandora's box, and Pandora's box has been opened, and now people are having a bad reaction to it. You can't fool me. A lot of people are being cheap, and now they're being taken advantage of, and now they want to cry foul.
That's right. Because when you steal someone's voice, Mert, you're not just stealing data, okay? You're stealing identity. They're stealing agency. They're stealing the sounds of your very existence. How can you be okay with that? It disturbs me immensely. And I think that these AI companies, these software companies should be zonked big time. Alex, come on.
No, that's not
Help
true.
me out, Alex. Come on, I need a voice of reason here.
That's not true. That's not true.
I agree with you, Lucas, on this, because look, and as a podcast,
finally he agrees, listeners. For weeks,
I do.
You've been siding with Mert on every wrong issue.
But on this one, it's like he's saying it's fair game. It's not fair game. You know, this show has a brand. You cannot go and repost Lucas's voice, your voice, and say,
or even Alex's voice,
or I guess my voice, sure, but you can't repost the voice and then use it as your own, because this is a branded show that you're taking from. It's intellectual property.
There you go. It's copywritten and it's protected. That's right. It's not okay, Mert. No, here's the truth, all right?
If I'm trying to scam somebody, I'm not waiting around for a copyright to use somebody's voice.
Well, then you can't use it. You can't use it. Now, here's the truth. AI voice cloning isn't going away. It's not going to get better. It's going to get faster. It's going to get more convincing, Mert. And we have to make a choice. Do we let technology define us, which is what you suggest, or do we define the technology, which is what Alex and I are suggesting? Do we accept a world where our voices are no longer ours, or do we fight for ownership? Do we shrug and say, that's how it is, that's what Mert's saying, or do we demand laws, protections, and consequences? Because your voice is not just sound, it is identity, it is memory, it is presence, it is you. And I submit, if we lose control of that, we lose control of everything. Amen. Now, we're not going to lose control by telling you this. You're listening to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas live. We're truly honored to have you along with us for the ride. Believe it or not, this is episode 96. Come on, let me hear an amen. This is Lucas Ferrara. We're ever mindful. Without you, we are nothing. So thank you for your support. We've got some great guests in store for you. But before we unleash them, let me introduce you to the Mertinator himself, my esteemed co-host, Mert Roberts. No one messes with that guy. And engineering and producing tonight's show is Alex Garrett, who's got a great podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. Please check it out. Now, after the break, Admiral William Fallon will join us. He's a retired four-star admiral who ran U.S. Central Command and wrote Decisions, Discord, and Diplomacy, a candid look at crisis, leadership, and the global tensions that test us. So stay tuned. Shake it off with Mert, Alex, and all of us here at AM 970. We'll return right after these messages.
A New York City law firm has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Born on America's darkest day of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been helping America's heroes ever since. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells. Inspired by the heroism of firefighters on 9/11, Michael felt a calling to pursue his dream of serving his community as a firefighter. He would devote 14 years to his fire department, rise to lieutenant, save lives, and earn the badge of honor for his bravery. Despite Michael's courage, faith, and unwavering smile, he lost his battle with occupational cancer. Michael leaves behind his loving wife, Katie, their 3 children, and a legacy of service and love. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honored Michael by paying off the Wells family mortgage. Help Tunnel to Towers support more families like the Wells family. Donate $11 a month. Go to T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
It's time to celebrate America. Join us for Patriots Pasta and Piscopo, an exclusive event in Times Square featuring Joe Piscopo, as we honor the nation's 250th birthday through the legendary sounds of Frank Sinatra, plus enjoy a special guest performance by acclaimed vocalist Chris Macchio, bringing even more power and passion to the stage. It's an evening filled with classic hits, live entertainment, and a patriotic atmosphere at New York City's iconic Carmine's Italian Restaurant in the Sinatra Room. AM 970's own Joe Piscopo delivers energy and nostalgia like no other. Get your tickets now for Patriots Pasta and Piscopo, featuring Joe Piscopo with special guest Chris Macchio. It's happening Wednesday, June 24th at 6 p.m. Seating is limited. Portions of the proceeds will support the Equal First Aid charity, courtesy of LifeVac. Text CELEBRATE to 94878 or go to am970theanswer.com and click the banner for tickets. That's am970theanswer.com.
Hi, it's Joe Piscopo. Have you heard what is being said about gold and silver? Jamie Dimon just said gold can easily go to $5,000 to $10,000. Bank of America's strategist Michael Harnett said $6,000 gold in the spring. And now multiple reports are noting a historic squeeze in the physical silver market, which is why silver has been outperforming gold this year. Yet both are significantly outperforming the U.S. stock indexes. This is why many people are calling my friends friends at Landmark Capital. When you call, you get a free information packet about gold and silver. If you have a 401k or IRA, you will also learn how to take advantage of physical gold and silver in your retirement without a tax liability. Give Landmark Capital a call today at 844-604-2575. That's 844-604-2575 or landmarkgold.com. That's landmarkgold.com.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
I love it. What's the name of that one, Alex?
All right, this one is High Seas Adventure by Melody Eris Griffiths.
High Seas Adventure. Are you guys ready? Admiral William J. Fox Fallon is a career naval officer whose 4 decades of service placed him at the center of some of America's most consequential military decisions. On September 11th, 2001, Fallon was in the Pentagon meeting when a American Airlines Flight 77 struck the building. As Vice Chief of Naval Operations, he immediately directed the evacuation and recovery of Navy personnel from the burning wreckage, then shifted within hours to orchestrating the Navy's role in the first retaliatory strikes against Al-Qaeda and Taliban forces. It was a defining moment that captured the decisive, steady leadership that would mark the rest of his career. Across 40 years in, we can't do this guy justice, Mert. Across 40 years in uniform, Fallon commanded at every level of warfare, from flying combat missions off carriers during Vietnam to overseeing U.S. military operations across 3 continents. Before he headed CENTCOM, he served as commander of U.S. Pacific Command, responsible for military relationships with 36 Asian Pacific nations, while managing rising tensions with North Korea and the shifting strategic balance across the region. His latest book, Decisions, Discord, and Diplomacy, that's Decisions, Discord, and Diplomacy, pulls back the curtain on crisis leadership, global risk, and the realities behind Americans' toughest calls. And he joins us today to discuss his life and his work. Welcome to the program, Admiral.
Well, thanks. It's nice to be with you.
It's an honor. Thank you for joining us. So, Admiral, as I said in the intro, you were in the Pentagon on 9/11. How did that moment shape your understanding of what the U.S. was about to face?
Well, it was instant recognition on my part what had happened. We were following the events in New York, and we knew that there were at least one other aircraft loose and unaccounted for. And when the impact, when I felt the impact, I knew instantly what it was. So what we didn't know is how much it was going to change our lives. It struck me as irritating, to say the least, that here we are being attacked on our own soil, and in fact at the nerve center of the military in the Pentagon. But things got complex right after that, as you know, with the problem with Al-Qaeda and things that went on spiraling out of Afghanistan. Then we're in Iraq, and we've been tied up in the Middle East ever since, and it looks like we're not getting out of it anytime soon.
No, it doesn't, Admiral. But you know what? 9/11 sort of, for me, represented America at its most vulnerable. I don't Americans ever experienced that sense of vulnerability or lack of safety. We all felt that, as long as we were on American soil, we were okay. But that fell apart on 9/11, and I think that's the same sense of discomfort you felt, no?
Yeah, it did. And of course, these places are very familiar to me. I was born and grew up in New Jersey and spent a lot of time in New York. My wife's from New York. And when that event occurred, it just made me sick. And then as I relate in part of my book, and this book is this is your life, but it's a partial memoir. It's mostly focused on my time as the CENTCOM commander, but I had to go back and talk a little bit about how we got there and the things that impacted me and preparing me for that job, and a lot of the complex events around the world that got us into it in the first place. But that night of 9/11, I was pretty emotionally struck by a couple of things. One is going out in the evening, and I was on a bit of a hill just up from the Pentagon, about a quarter mile away from it, and I'm looking at the building is still burning, embers coming out of it, firemen trying to get the fire out, my office being destroyed, and it just was sickening. But then another event occurred that small in scale, but it's very revealing of human nature and Americans in particular. So I was in a compound that was part of the Navy office complex in Washington, and I went out to look at this site in the evening and was sickened by it. And then I turned around and went to walk back to my office, and I saw that there were several men who had what we now call a food truck. In those days, they weren't really known as food trucks, but for all practical purposes, that's what it was. It turns out that this truck, which was dispensing coffee and hot chocolate and goodies to anybody up there that wanted anything, was driven up from Norfolk by a couple of former sailors who just reacted instantly to what happened and said, maybe we can help, and there's always somebody that's going to need a cup of coffee or something. And they drove up and set up shop, and they were there for a couple of weeks. And I just thought, wow, just the thought that they would do that in these circumstances was uplifting, and it kind of helped neutralize some of that disgust that I felt on the other side.
Yeah,
let me ask a question.
This is my co-host, Admiral Mert Roberts. Go ahead, Mert.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. Do you think that Americans before 9/11 could really distinguish themselves from every other place in the world? Like, for example, areas of the world where they might have conflicts on a regular basis, where there's, a lot of destruction. After 9/11, were Americans more closely able to, relate to these people? Or do you still think we kind of are living in with this mentality of it won't happen to us because we're America? Do you get what I'm trying to ask you?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I have mixed feelings on that one. I think that prior to that time, there's little doubt that we thought we were special in many ways, and pretty much immune to the idea that we would be attacked on our own soil. After that, people got really scared, and
right.
I saw this from top to bottom, and so they didn't know what to think. But I just looked at the way people acted and running around all the way from the top of our government on down. It shook everybody to the core. And so now that some decades have passed, where are we? I think that, in truth, we are still in a situation that could be quite vulnerable, particularly given the reach of weapons these days and the myriad of bad actors that run around the world. But I think that a lot of our people still cling to this idea that maybe it can't happen here again.
Right, because what they say. They always say, use tragedies. Out of tragedies, there could always be some good. Try to take advantage.
Sure.
And that sounds callous, but what is it? Is it possible that the United States took advantage of this to, strengthen our military and everything like that? Because you would be able to describe to us, all right, we had trouble getting funding for this. After 9/11, it was like we had a blank check. Did that take place?
It certainly took place for the security, particularly domestic security. I mean, just look at what happened. We went from being able to stroll into an airport and just get on an airplane any way we wanted, and then we drove around wherever we wanted. We had our buildings of commerce as well as government just right on the street, unprotected. And in the years shortly thereafter, look at the changes that have occurred. Every one of our public buildings seems to be behind a fortress of barricades of some kind or another, and trying to get in. That I think is, and we've kind of accepted that now as the norm. It certainly I couldn't have imagined it as the norm back in 25 years ago, but that's kind of where we are. But,
hey, Admiral, we have to take a quick commercial break, but folks, have no fear. When we return, Admiral William J. Fox Fallon will rejoin us. You'll find his book, Decisions, Discord, and Diplomacy, on Amazon or wherever books are sold. In the meantime, Mert, Alex, and I hope you'll stay right where you are. Don't move. After the break, Admiral Fallon will return. He's the man who's been in the rooms for some of the toughest calls of the last generation. You definitely want to hear what he has to say.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
We love bringing you products that improve your life. Well, this product can save your life. There are approximately 5,000 choking deaths in the U.S. each year. One child dies every 5 days from choking. Did you know older adults are at an increased risk of choking? Yes. And lodged food is the main cause. Ever pop small, bite-sized foods in your mouth like peanuts, grapes, or popcorn? Those foods that people eat by the handful can get overloaded in the mouth, which can cause a choking episode. LifeVac is a simple rescue device that can change a life in a choking emergency. It's non-invasive and easy to use, and one kit fits the whole family. If you have a young child in your family or a senior relative living alone, I strongly recommend you visit the LifeVac website today at lifevac.net. View the videos demonstrating its ease of use. LifeVac works in 3 simple steps: place, push, and pull. The LifeVac device dislodges the obstruction and suctions out the food or object. It's that simple. And it can be self-administered. LifeVac.net, made in the USA and FDA registered.
Hi, it's Arthur Idala here for Bay Ridge Mazda, run by my buddy Rob Sabah, a family-owned and operated Mazda dealership. At Bay Ridge Mazda, buying a car feels straightforward, comfortable, and personal. Their team takes the time to understand what matters most to you, your budget, your lifestyle, and how you really drive. They offer a great selection of new Mazdas, along with a wide range of high-quality pre-owned vehicles, all fully inspected and ready for the road. And when you call or text, you won't reach a call center. You'll speak with someone right there at the dealership, focused on helping you find the right fit. Bay Ridge Mazda, where every customer gets a real conversation and a clear path forward. Visit them at 9000 4th Avenue in Brooklyn, or call or text 855-332-3476, 855-332-3476, 855-332-3476.
Unity Bank is dedicated to community-oriented banking and offers a full range of services including business and personal accounts, business loans, and mortgages. Unity has locations throughout New Jersey and in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, expanding its footprint to 21 retail locations. Grow your savings with their great CD specials. Visit unitybank.com to find out more. Unity Bank is also a great place to work. As Unity Bank President and CEO James Hughes says, the people make Unity Bank a great place to work. We give our employees an opportunity to grow. At Unity Bank, there are no excess layers of bureaucracy as found at Goliath-sized banks. All employees have full access to management with encouragement to make decisions and grow their careers. Visit unitybank.com. That's unitybank.com for current CD and savings specials. They are FDIC insured, an equal opportunity employer, and an equal housing lender. Unity Bank, growing with you.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
We have been speaking with Admiral William J. Fox Fallon, the former commander of United States Central Command and United States Pacific Command, known for navigating some of the most complex military and diplomatic crises of the early 21st century. His book, Decisions, Discord, and Diplomacy, offers a clear, unvarnished look at leadership, global tension, and the difficult choices made at the highest levels of national security. You'll find it on Amazon and wherever books are sold. We'll also have links posted on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Now, Mert, my co-host, had a follow-up for you, Admiral. Go ahead, Mert.
Well, you got to learn how to say diplomacy, because I'm tired of you.
Yeah, I know. I keep mumbling diplomacy. I keep mumbling it up. Sorry about that, Admiral.
It's 3 D's in a row, so I understand diplomacy. That's what the word is. Yeah. But let me ask you this about.
By the way, if I could put in one word here, just so everybody knows, every penny that might accrue from the sale of this book is going directly to charity. I have a favorite charity that helps our wounded veterans with their traumas in particular, and they've been great folks doing a lot of good for people. So anyway.
Thank you for adding that, Admiral. So you see, you get to do some good in the process. Amen. Go ahead, Mert.
Well, I was about to ask you about the high level, because your book is talks about that high level decision making. Now, you don't have to get into specifics, but what is the temperament of somebody who's making these decisions, such as what do we do during a time of 9/11 or any other event? Because I sit back and sometimes I think, man, to be, so cold that you would be willing to send bombs over there and blow up people, you got to be a real tough guy mentally to be able to, reconcile that in your mind that this is the game plan we're going with. So what type of people are we talking about who are making these decisions?
Well, my experience is you got all types of people. You would hope that the people that are at the top that have the responsibility for these big decisions have done their homework, and that's a mixed bag in my experience. And by doing their homework, I mean actually have studied a little bit of history, because what I've discovered is there are different events that occur constantly, but many of them go back to have similar roots. And a lot of what we're seeing like right now, for example, in the Middle East, we've seen before. This is a record that's played again. So you'd really like to have people that are knowledgeable about what happened in the past. Now, it's not normal for a lot of folks. They don't want to look in the past. They want to look forward. Okay, I get it, but there's a lot to be learned from the past. The other key attributes are to have the wisdom to make the right decision. And how do you get that wisdom? You get that through experience. You get it by observing people. You get it by going through processes in your own life that present you with issues, and you have to deal with them. And if you deal with them correctly, you gain confidence in that, and it bolsters your sense of being able to deal with stuff as they come up. You've got to try to be cool under pressure. It's tough sometimes. 9/11, I couldn't imagine much more difficult scenario for the leaders of our government to deal with. Our own country attacked on its own soil, but then you got to think through. You got to think down the road of what went on. And so, as I look at what happened, the decision to figure out who did it, and it didn't take long before we recognized that this was an Al-Qaeda perpetrated activity. So, how do we do two things? One, prevent this from happening again, seems to me number one. But then people wanted to get back at these guys to get even with them, and more importantly, get them off the street. And so activities began to get underway to do that, and in pretty short order determined that these characters were based out of Afghanistan, and we set about putting the military to work to try to root them out. Things
let me ask you a question.
Pretty well.
Sorry,
first. Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, but let me ask you a question about the consequences with these decisions, because that's one of the most overlooked things, in my opinion. Because that foundation that you're donating the proceeds to your book to, I think once we make the tough decisions to go to war, and all of that entails. We have troops that go over there, and they go through things, and they come back, and then we seem. Now, you might not have the same view, but I have a view that we seem to forget about the consequences that these young men, that they're going to face when they go over there, defend us, and they come back over here. And then to see sometimes how our government doesn't step up and give them the necessary funding to get the treatment and all that stuff. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because consequences is something we got to think about when we make a tough decision.
That's a good word and a really good point. And I would look at two ways immediately. One, at the national and international level, the consequences of taking an action to go to war, for example, very profound. This world of ours today is so interconnected and interrelated that virtually nothing happens that doesn't ripple throughout the world. So today, look at what's going on in the Gulf and the price of oil. So in the case of the U.S., not particularly a big deal for us directly, because we happen to have today plenty of oil and gas. But the fact that all these markets are interconnected throughout the world has spin-off implications. And then there's the consequences of activities that we undertake. What does this mean, not just for our people, but for people around the world? Again, we're so connected. So in the Gulf right now, we've got a bunch of friendly countries that have been friendly with us for quite a while. Some would call them allies. I did when I worked with them. The other Gulf countries, and they're being buffeted by Iran right now. They didn't start it; we did, but they're feeling the effects. And so we could talk for an hour about the different ramifications of those decisions to go, and as you say, the consequences. Great word. Back at the personal level with our people, really important, and particularly given my 40-some years in uniform. These are our people. These are our sons and daughters. And when a decision is made to send them off to war, leaders need to be thinking about consequences for these people, not just in how things happen around the world, but as you indicated, on the personal level. And so this is not some Teflon kind of business. When you get involved in a war, people get hurt, they get injured, they get killed. And as we see, medicine has made huge strides, and we benefit from the fact that our folks are able to save many of the people who are wounded who would have perished in the past. But many of them have long-term injuries that need to be addressed, and so we have to make provision for that and make decisions to ensure that we're going to take care of them.
Admiral, you know what, Admiral? We talked about that last week, how everybody was happy because there's an approval for some psychedelic that's going to help out people who are going through PTSD. And I was saying it's bigger than a drug being approved. These people need a lot of care. They need active people there to help them and walk them through, because what if they don't take their medicine? What if they don't take the approved psychedelic?
Yeah.
It's a bigger problem. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, calling me pretty skeptical on the psychedelic stuff, but you're playing right into a decision I made many years ago, and that's to support, for example, this Boulder Crest Foundation. The focus of the activities of this charity is to try our darndest to get our people off of the drugs, because they start taking drugs. The next thing you know, they're taking another drug, because every drug has side effects, and then another drug, and before long, people are just consumed with the drug. So the idea is, can we do this another way? Can we help them to get into their heads and help them to improve their lives, convince them of their worth, their value, which is phenomenal. And they offered to go fight for us in different parts of the world and came back injured. And so really, really important that we make sure that we think ahead and plan for these eventualities, because they're certain to happen.
You know, Admiral, we would be remiss, and I hate if we're putting you on the spot here, but you did bring up what's going on in Iran. We have a blockade underway. We've got a bunch of ships, lots of people out there. Are you concerned? Are we on the right course, wrong course? Do you think this is going to end well? Do you have any opinions on that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, I got lots of opinions, I'm sure. So I think going back to, and anyone that might be interested in taking some time to go through this book of mine, you'll see that the decisions that leaders make have consequences. And unfortunately, in this case, we seem to be repeating many of the same mistakes that we made 20-some years ago in this exact same region of the world. But they've made those decisions right now, and let's take a look at where we are. It seems to me that we're in kind of a standoff right now between ourselves, and it's really a standoff of our own doing. In that, I think we have, on both sides, have kind of come to the conclusion that the longer this thing goes on, the less likely it is that either side's going to come out with the way they like to. So I think it's kind of limiting for a couple of reasons right now. One, we've I hope relearned the lesson that you can't bomb somebody in submission. You can hurt them. You can't win wars without air power, but the idea that you can just bomb people and make things turn around, that just doesn't work. People are pretty resilient, and when you get a country the size of Iran with 100 million people or so, it's very difficult to do. On the other hand, we've basically brought Iran's defenses to their knees. That doesn't mean they're done. They have, as we've seen, an ability to hide away missiles and drones, and they continue to fire them at us, but primarily at the other countries around the region. So it seems to me we could probably spend a lot more time than people would like trying to chase down these weapons. We're not likely to get rid of all of them. It's kind of like trying to find mice in a cornfield. They're out there, they're going to scurry around, and it's going to be very difficult. But the fact of the matter is, economically, Iran's in trouble right now. And that they know that, they realize that, and so the fact that both sides are talking, maybe not convincingly yet, but at least they're talking, I think is an inevitable result. I think in any conflict at some time you're going to have to sit down and quote make a deal, and that's kind of where we are now. I think from the U.S. side, this closing of the strait, if you would, it's closed only because people don't want to run the risk of going through it. The strait's pretty wide. It's about 20 miles, 125 miles. It's a big horseshoe. So there's a lot of water, a lot of territory, a lot of islands out there, and there are ways to get through. But the commercial folks are not particularly interested in running the risk of being shot at going through. If the Iranians shoot, we have a lot of responses that can, as you've seen this past week, we can shoot them up and beat them down, but you're not going to get everything, and there's still some risk out there. So it's kind of a standoff.
Well, Admiral, on that note, unfortunately, we've run out of time. You'll find the Admiral's book, Decisions, Discord, and Diplomacy, on Amazon, wherever books are sold. Help out charity by making a purchase also. We'll have links posted on our website, Shake It Off Live. Thank you so much for coming on our program, Admiral. We have to run. Next up, Bill Eddy, a therapist attorney who spent decades mapping how high conflict personalities operate. He'll come after the break. So stay tuned. We'll come back with Bill Eddy and all of us here at AM 970 right after the news.
The preceding hour of programming sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
Andy Chrisman of For Him has spent 40-plus years in Christian music, and chances are he knows your favorite artist personally. Now he's bringing you their stories.
I'm Andy Chrisman.
In his new podcast, 1 Degree of Andy, he sits down with the voices behind the songs for real, honest, and faith-filled conversations you won't hear anywhere else.
That's a great question.
If you love Christian music, this is your backstage pass.
The 1 Degree of Andy podcast.
Listen now to 1 Degree of Andy wherever you get your podcasts.